Morning, everyone. It's always the hardest bit is starting, getting the hush. Look, welcome everyone to the 2024 AGM for QCOSS. We've got lots of people joining us online, thank you today, and appreciate everyone joining us here in the room. 65 years QCOSS has been here, so we'll be hearing a little bit about that today and sharing some cupcakes and good things. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on Yagara and Turrbal country here today and pay our respects to elders past and present. Shortly I'll ask Joseph to come and if he'd be willing to welcome us here. Before we do, I'd like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that we have here today. Our guest speaker, Bec O'Connor, the Queensland Victims Commissioner, my fellow board directors for QCOSS, and he's not in the room here, but we'll be joined later by Ben Barker, a performer. You can see he's set up there. He was he was getting the audio set up this morning. It was just incredibly moving. So I just really can't wait for all of us to get the opportunity to listen to Ben. Some brief housekeeping, toilets down on level 2 if you can make your way down there. If there's an emergency, the team here at Powerhouse will come and join us and show us the way out. In front of you on the tables should have a copy of the agenda for today, a summary of the annual report, and it is a summary because that is online, we'll present that later on. A copy of the Constitution for light reading, and the audited financial reports which Kevin will present to us shortly. Joseph, if you'd be willing to welcome us here to country. By introduction, Joseph is from Tribal Experience. He's been doing cultural work for over 15 years, including very major sporting events around Brisbane, and has travelled around Australia and around the world, sharing his culture with people. So if you'd be willing to welcome us here, thank you, Joseph.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Bierman, and I am a descendant of the Yagara people of this area through my father, Shannon Ruska, who was a well-known spokesperson and songman here in Brisbane. The Yagara tribe is one of the local tribes that occupies this area, stretching from the mouth of the Brisbane River, south to the Logan River, and out to the Great Dividing Range to the foothills of Warwick and Toowoomba, and as far north as the Caboolture River. I'm here today to give you what is called a welcome to country. A welcome to country isn't something that was made over 10, 20 years ago, and it isn't something that was recorded down on paper by any of our elders back in the day, and it isn't something that events organised have just organised just overnight. It is something that has been around for 60,000 years, passed down from generation to generation, and is a formal way of welcoming everyone into our tribal areas nowadays, and is also known as one of the oldest living customs in the world known to mankind. Along with the welcome to country is also the tumul ceremony, the smoking ceremony. And this is a ceremony that you see a lot of Aboriginal tribes around Australia do. And this tumul ceremony, the smoking ceremony, is a cleansing away all the bad spirits from the area, bringing in all the good spirits from the area. And it's also a blessing everyone into our tribal areas, plus for us as traditional owners to call out to our ancestors to help welcome everyone through that smoke. Along with the welcome to country and the tumul ceremony was also the passing over the message stick. And this message stick is one which we call Yalwa Buna. And this Yalwa Buna was a piece of wood used similar to a passport back in the day, and would have different markings or carvings on it to depict the reason why another tribal group wanted to come into our area. Back in the day, so there were over 350 different tribal groups throughout Australia, over 150 different cultural dialects, tribal dialects. For example, if we were to cross that Logan River in the south, it'd be governed by a whole nother tribal group again, which would be the Yugambeh tribe. And the Yugambeh tribe, they would have their own set of laws, their own set of customs, traditions, and also their own language. And that's why everyone back in the day had a special person in their tribe, and this person was a messenger man. And one of the main messenger men for this area is one of my grandfathers, Mookin, his name was. And Mookin, He was a man that could speak up to 10 to 15 different languages, so he is a man that could communicate with all the neighbouring tribes. And he is a man that could communicate with all the tribes throughout Australia also. So Mukin, he was one of the main men to meet that person at the border. So a lot of the tribal areas are bordered off by mountains and rivers. So if a Yugambeh person wanted to come over that river with that message stick, Mukin would be the one to meet them at that border, at that river, and he'd actually be the one to read that message on that message stick. It was then up to Mukin then to either grant them a permission to walk through our tribal area or call onto the whole tribe to come through and spear that person dead on the spot. So we're glad they invented mobile phones these days. There are 3 main tribes that occupy this area, the Yagara, Jagara and Turrbal tribes. Just on behalf of those 3 tribes and all of my elders, I'd like to welcome everyone here today by saying, Yura Yura Nambali, Yanara Gana Ripa Jara, Nanya Birili, Nanya Bayami Jara, means you're all welcome here today, and may God and all of our ancestors guide us here in peace. Thank you and welcome everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Joseph. So we've got quite a bit of sort of formal business to run through, and this is it's pretty dry, right? So just for people in the room and online, just want to explain that as a company that we are, that we'll be using the governance mechanism of a motion to be able to carry decisions forward. So when we do that, running through all of the formal business, I'll just ask that a member might move to support the decision, and that someone second that. So when you do it, just so that actually works when we're here, if you'd like to move or second a motion, if you don't mind raising your hand, if I note that, if you can say your name really loud and clearly to Annette, who's our company secretary and the officer for today. Annette's up the back there. So yeah, if you can help by that, so hand up, I'll point to you, call your name out loud and clear, please. So first of all, we'll move through the apologies. We'll formally note the apologies, which will come up on the screen in a second. Thank you. So I'll just ask if someone can move to note the apologies. Thank you. And if someone can second that, please. And thank you. Okay, and second order of business is to move to adopt the minutes from last year's AGM. So again, a copy of those are all on your table, so I'm sure everyone's read through them in detail. But yeah, if I can ask for someone to move that those minutes are an accurate record. Thank you. Thanks, Catherine. And if someone can second, please. Thank you. Okay. There's a little bit more to go and that a bit later on, but anyway, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Matt Gardiner, very proud to be here as part of the board of QCOSS. Be 5 years now since been fortunate to be chair of this board, and just really want to sort of acknowledge our directors at the beginning, but just want to thank everyone actually for it's a very active board, a board that really cares a lot about this organisation and contribute a lot. So it's our 65th anniversary. In very brief history, in '59, the Queensland Social Workers and the Australian Wattle League, and also the Governor of Queensland, Governor de Jersey, gave us a lesson on the history of QCOSS actually at our 60th anniversary in Government House. He's a real history buff, and he made sure that we knew that the Governor was actually a driver behind that at the time. So in '59, the organisation was formed. And 65 years later, we're really proud that we're still leading the movement for social change in Queensland. It's been really incredible to watch just over, for me it's probably been, 20 years or something, in being part of QCOSS, but probably about 8 now with the board formally. And it's just amazing to watch, what actually is quite a small organisation really engage its members, and I guess in turn we see members being really engaged in our work to the point where it can be impactful as we are today. There are over 350 member organisations that we have now. There are a number of individuals as well, but 350 organisations are members of QCOSS. one of the things I guess that we are held to account to by our members, and probably most proud of, is that we don't let politicians turn away from their responsibilities and turn away from addressing Queensland's most pressing social issues. Aimee reminded me just today that we're not activists. That's not who we are. We're not an organisation of activists. But also, we're not meek. You know? I think we need to be careful as peak bodies that we don't become meek and underestimate the obligation that we've got. And often, you know, I think in our sector we talk about not wanting to, stress relationships too much, particularly perhaps with the new government or any government. You know, we don't want to use that political capital, but I think my reflection right now and where the organisation is that rather than just accepting that we've got a limit of political capital and we don't want to expend it, actually we can go about building more capital, you know, actually having stronger relationships, being really clear in the advocacy that we do, what we stand for, that there are not surprises, that we will stand strong, and if something isn't going in favour of wellbeing and equality in Australia, in Queensland, that it will be called out, that it will be addressed, and that's what you can expect of QCOSS. So some of the no, I'm not going to say that. That's good. I'm not a real follower, really. So look, some of the policies like housing. Bear with me. Some of the incredible improvements we've seen around housing policy in the last couple of years. Policies like $1,000 energy rebate for all Queenslanders, the accessible public transport we've seen in the last 12 months, including additional concessions around car registration, food relief for Queenslanders. Many of these were actually itemised in the Make Queensland Fair campaign. So again, you're seeing lots of campaigns come out of QCOSS, but they're not just us going out there and saying nice things. They're time-bound, they're measurable. And again, they're only effective because our members get behind them. There are policy reforms in early childhood youth justice, fairer renting, and conditions across supporting a sustainable community service sector that are coming directly out of our campaigns. Peter Beattie, someone pulled a really great reference here from the former Premier, that directly from the Premier's mouth. I know the important focus that QCOSS has for some time is pressuring governments to respond. I think that you should be. I think that this should be your absolute first focus, and you should never move away from that. And I think, standing here in front of you all, our board are incredibly proud of the work that our organisation is doing. Aimee and the executive and all of the really hard-working, dedicated, skilled people in QCOSS, really going about campaigning in a disciplined way, in a measured way, and in a really sophisticated way. Every week, the organisations put major sector issues, like I've just mentioned, into the Queensland public conversation, particularly through the media. And you'll see some of that in our annual report to the actual media attention that the organisation's getting through campaigning. And every week, our team are working with politicians and the public service to make sure that issues that matter most to Queenslanders and to our sector are front of mind for the policymakers. An excellent example of this is how QCOSS added pressure in the lead up to the election just gone. You saw a couple of leaders' debates between Stephen Miles and David Crisafulli. These are hosted between QCOSS and the Courier Mail, and I can tell you right now that how that actually happened was Aimee made it happen. Sat down, came up with a strategy to make that happen. And I can tell you when we heard it was going to come together, it was just an incredible moment to think, here's QCOSS going to host a leaders' debate between the Premier and the deputy, opposition leader. It's just extraordinary to think that could happen, right? And that's not extraordinary because we can get our brand up there. That's not the point. It's extraordinary because we got both of them to talk about the issues that matter to Queenslanders. Yeah. Just some of the reminder of some of the things that were mentioned during that is that David Crisafulli, again under some expectation, committed to providing solar for people who rent in Queensland. And Stephen Miles, even more extraordinarily, came out and said that no Queenslander would be homeless. It's because of the transformative work that QCOSS does with its members to make Queensland fair and equal that in April, we've been entrusted to oversee the establishment of Queensland's first domestic and family violence peak. It's an incredible honour to be able to fulfil this recommendation from the Women's Safety and Justice Task Force report. Hear her voice after years of tireless advocacy from the Queensland's domestic family violence sector. It's an incredible privilege to serve this sector, and we really look forward to QCOSS working with the skilled and capable organisations that will help bring an end to violence against women and children. Again, just like to, given that this is the formal event for the board, to really thank our people in QCOSS, the people that make this organisation work, that go about it with pride and commitment every day. And most of all, we're a member organisation, so would like to thank our members. Officially, of course, I'd like to thank the Queensland Government for their support, the Department of Communities, Housing, Digital Economy, and many other partners and sponsors that make it possible for us to do our work. I've mentioned a few times about the strength of our CEO, and we've had 5 years now of leadership from Aimee, and I would just say that the way that Aimee, our executive team, and all of our staff engage with our members, like that's where the strength is. So for all of our members, here in the room and online, I would just encourage, to be a member of an organisation means something. So engage, take the opportunities that are there, help us shape the policy to the way that actually is meeting the needs of the sector and all of the constituents, clients, and people that you serve throughout the state. I'll leave it there. Thank you. So briefly, before we move over to hand over to Kevin, I'll just present the annual report. So again, a summary version of that is on your tables, but it's fully digital. So it's an online interactive publication. We haven't gone printing copies for the last few years. Each year, really, we just do try and represent the work that we do, the work of our members, the diversity of that comes with that. And really would invite you, if there's not value in this, or there isn't value in it if people don't share it. So if I can just ask you to share it around your organisations. We'd like, as members, it's not just those of us sitting in head offices, but we'd like the people that, that we work with every day to see this. So if I can ask you to share it through your organisations, would be appreciated. So now I'm going to invite Kevin to come and present the financial reports for the year. Sorry, I should introduce Kevin. Kevin Mercer is our Chair of Finance and Audit. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, everybody. Be pleased to know this is probably the last of the procedural matters, and then we can get on to the interesting stuff and hear from Aimee and Bec. So as Matt said, I'm a QCOSS Director and Chair of the Finance and Audit Committee, and it's my privilege to present to the members our financial audited statements for 2023-24. Those financial reports are detailed in the annual report, and there's several hard copies available this morning. 2023-24 as a financial year, like many previous years, as we've all experienced, has been challenging for a lot of organisations due to very unpredictable and rapidly changing economic conditions. However, despite some of those challenges, pleased to report that QCOSS's financial performance has continued to reflect an agreed and sustainable pursuit of funding opportunities, coupled with the expenditure being carefully managed to ensure its ongoing impact through investments into those key policy, research, advocacy, project and sector development and engagement activities is sustainable and, as Matt outlined, highly effective in what QCOSS is doing. The surplus for the year ended 30 June 24 includes recognition of unrealised gains from investment portfolios, income from major events, and the delivery of project works under fee-for-service arrangements. This surplus has provided QCOSS with a very strong start to the 24-25 financial year. Donations received from many of our member organisations in relation to the social housing, town of nowhere, cost of living campaigns have continued to be delivered in the first quarter of this financial year and are identified in the balance sheet as reserved funds for expenditure. QCOSS is obviously dependent on receiving government grants for a lot of its revenue to operate the organisation. And to this date of this report, the directors have no reason to believe the company will not continue to receive grants from the government for essential activities and advocacy on behalf of its members and those people we serve. I'd just also like to note QCOSS as a peak body has increased its diversity of income that it's able to attract, and that's not an easy thing to achieve, and that diversity enables QCOSS to do those important things that matter, those special things that matter to its members, and our funding isn't always tied to a particular government program or whatever it might be. So I congratulate Aimee and the team on continuing to grow and develop our diversity of income, which creates diversity of opportunity for us. Our external auditors, BDO, and I welcome Anthony to the meeting this morning, have scrutinised our financial performance and financial reporting systems, and we are pleased to ascertain that the financial reports represent a true and fair view of QCOSS's financial position and performance for the year ended 30 June 2024, and are prepared in accordance with Australian accounting standards as issued by the Australian Accounting Standards Board, and are also fully compliant with international reporting standards as issued by the International Accounting Standards Board and Section 60 of the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profit Commission regulations. This report is made and presented in accordance with a resolution of directors pursuant to Section 292(2)A of the Corporations Act. And with that, I'd like to put forward the motion to the meeting that the audited financial report for the year end 30 June 2024 be accepted. Can I have a mover of that? Thank you, Rachel. Seconder?
Catherine Hayes.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Kevin. You always get the fun bit of the. I should say actually, under sort of Kevin's leadership of the committee, QCOSS is in an incredibly strong position, and again, just I think using our the income and 65 years worth of good financial management in a way that's like really quite sophisticated, and So anyway, thank you. Going to introduce Aimee. Before I do, I was going to say before, a bit cheeky, but then I decided not to, and now I've decided to. I just want to say, a lot of the work that our organisation does, and particularly our leader, people don't see, right? I mean, we actually see a lot of it, but we don't see a lot more. And I just think people wouldn't believe the level of engagement that Aimee has with our premiers, with ministers, with all of the people who are sort of making decisions for Queenslanders. You just would not believe the number of calls and the decisions that are checked out with Aimee on behalf of our sector. So anyway, welcome, Aimee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. What an introduction, and also not entirely true, but it's wonderful to be here with you all this morning, and with you joining us online. And can I begin by thanking Joseph and acknowledging that we're on the unceded land of the Turrbal and Yagara people. I pay my deep respects to First Nations people joining us in the room today, and our First Nations colleagues, and Bronwyn Fredericks, our board member. Look, today is obviously our AGM, and Matt and I have both been provided with things that we're supposed to say to report on the progress of the year, and probably one thing we share in common is that we both struggle to follow rules. So unfortunately you might hear a few overlapping themes and maybe some contradictory remarks from the two of us. Look, there is a lot to reflect on from the past year, and I think at this time as well, we're all reflecting, aren't we, on how we chart the way forward. So I think when we're thinking about this moment, this year gone by, and 65 years, now's a good time to have that reflection. We're reflecting on a year that was an election year, a huge amount of work done by the community services sector. QCOSS and our members identified pretty early on that housing and cost of living were going to be top of mind for Queenslanders in the election year. So together with you, we led 2 really successful campaigns, the Make Queensland Fair campaign, which is about cost of living, and the Town of Nowhere campaign, which is about ending the housing crisis. Across the year, we travelled the state twice, and we listened to our members tell us some pretty sobering stories about what's happening across Queensland. Things that come to mind, Meals on Wheels, for example. I remember Evan saying to me, Meals on Wheels has been around for 70 years and we have never seen the type of pressure that the community is currently under. Relationships Australia was talking about families that they were working with who are using Afterpay to pay for baby formula. I went out with Micah Projects looking, on their sort of homeless outreach bus and was talking to people in line for food relief. Many of those people were not homeless, they were renters, but they can no longer afford their food. In Townsville, I heard stories about people with chronic illnesses being discharged from hospital to live in tents, or in central Queensland, we reflected on the fact that rent has increased by 80% in central Queensland across the last 5 years. And of course, everywhere across the state, we heard about the increasing levels of domestic and family violence in our communities, and the just inability of our current systems to actually deal with the issue and to make sure that women and children have a safe option to leave. So many women and children are stuck in dangerous and life-threatening situations because they don't want to choose homelessness. So, against that backdrop, we worked together to really fight for some significant change. And this year we did do that. We achieved a long-term housing plan for Queensland, a 20% uplift for specialist homelessness services, a bipartisan commitment to 53,500 new social housing dwellings, huge discounts off energy bills. And one thing that I was particularly excited by was the new bipartisan commitment to changing the way that contracting and procurement of community sector funding occurs. In a pretty deeply political move, the former government called it our BPIC, our best practice industry conditions, and anyone who's following along with the media this week would see that BPICs are under fire. And to give you some comfort, I did receive a call from the Premier yesterday where he wanted to convey his assurance to our sector that our BPIC is not under threat, that he is personally deeply committed to continuing that reform. As Matt sort of stole my thunder in terms of talking about probably what was one of my favourite moments in the year, and that was the leaders' debate that we held together with the Courier Mail. And I found it to be, almost like a physically moving experience, because in that room we're at the Courier Mail headquarters, with the Premier and the Deputy Premier, and everyone in the audience was either people from our sector or people that use services. And at the beginning of an election year, it was really this demonstration of truth to power. The first person who stood up and asked a question was Gail, who'd come down with Anglicare North Queensland to the event, a First Nations woman who was experiencing homelessness. And she got to ask the first question of the Premier and the Deputy Premier about what they were doing about the housing crisis. And in that event, that woman's advocacy and the advocacy of others in the room led the Premier to say anyone who rings a housing service centre should at least be offered a hotel or motel. I don't want people living in cars and tents. And I think that was a phenomenal outcome and just such an incredible thing to be part of. Obviously, we also have continued to campaign through the Raise the Age campaign in relation to youth justice. We haven't gotten where we wanted to get with that campaign. We pivoted to talk about ending the use of adult watch houses for children, and together with many of you in this room, we're going to continue to have that fight. As Matt mentioned, we reached an extraordinary number of people through our media work this year. In fact, our report shows that 56.35 million people were reached by QCOSS's media in the last year alone. And obviously our advocacy is one of the most visible parts of our work, but we do other things at QCOSS as well. The common thread is deep, consistent and transparent engagement with our members. And so that intel information helps us to form up the other things that we do. We delivered 138 events in the last financial year. We developed resources that are published on Community Door, which were viewed by 148,000 people. And we authored 36 submissions into state government and federal government policy areas. We also deliver a significant amount of workforce development programs, and we authored and published significant reports around cost of living, housing, and also, of course, the state of the community services sector. As Matt said, we also were this year tasked with the absolute privilege of being the interim peak body for domestic and family violence services, and also having the opportunity to work with our domestic and family violence sector to establish an independent peak body for domestic and family violence services. This work is complicated and exciting, and we are deeply committed to the work, as well as feeling incredibly privileged to be part of the work. So it has been a massive year, and we have achieved a lot together, but I do want to, as well as celebrating the wins, because I know that is really important, that we need to focus on the future because there is so much more to be done. I was really struck by what Joseph said about those who came before us, and when we think about 65 years, we think about all of the people who have come before us and our responsibility to continue that legacy into the future. We've been in the business of pushing the arc of history towards progress now for 65 years, and our work is deeply rooted in an understanding of the power of the community services sector. In fact, our theory of change is that when the community sector is strong, connected, engaged and mobilised, significant positive change will occur. And it was that sort of value proposition that drew me to QCOSS in the first place 5 years ago. And I can say that with my team and with all of you, we work every day on continuing to build that power and influence. But with power comes responsibility. And as I said at the outset, I think, well, for me personally, I've been reflecting a lot in the last sort of month or so about what comes with power and how you sustain influence and how we're responsible and accountable to our members and to the community, and that has to be tied to impact. And so I think, moving ahead, we know that we're going to have to re-prosecute fights or arguments that we thought we'd already won. Things like the fact that children should be treated differently in the justice system to adults. We need to double down on our efforts to stand in solidarity with First Nations people in the continual fight for justice and self-determination. And at the same time, we need to partner with state government to make sure that the programs, services and investments that they make ensure our sector is stronger, and that we have a voice at the table to make sure the interests of the most disadvantaged people in our community are considered in government decision making. So all in all, what I've been thinking about is, reflecting on this 65 years of striving. It is still the case that we are the custodians of a very ambitious vision for equality, opportunity and wellbeing for all Queenslanders, and we have to double down on our efforts to make sure we carry that vision through into the future. I want to thank our amazing board for all of their work, to Matt, to Kevin, to Fazer, to Bronwyn, to Linda, to Alvin, to Leanne, and also just to acknowledge our outgoing board member, Colleen Tribe, who has made a significant and long contribution to our board and our organisation. Cole's leaving us as a board member, but certainly won't be a stranger to us. She's already put her hand up to volunteer at our conference next year. I want to thank my amazing colleagues. A lot of the time, our success and our efforts are attributed to me as the CEO, as a spokesperson, but the efforts, the skills, the passion, the humour, the resourcefulness of my team, of our organisation, can't be overstated, and I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do at QCOSS. And finally, I think I've taken more than my time allocation. Finally, to all of you, to our members, it is absolutely the case that everything that we achieve is achieved through and with you, so thank you.
Thanks, Aimee. I'm not sure if we contradicted each other too much, but for everyone, we often do. So next get to introduce our guest speaker for today, and my note says that I'm delighted to introduce Bec O'Connor to address the AGM, but I'll read out the formal bits in a moment, but I am going to. But I also just wanted to say, this is a highlight of my working life for lots of reasons. Most of you won't know, but Bec and I have known each other for a very, very long time and had the opportunity to work together in a couple of places. And when we heard about the Victims Commissioner and the legislation to create that role being introduced here, I just thought, God, surely this is the person for the job, because I know of Bec that when survivors need to be represented and someone needs to stand up when others won't, no one has more integrity than this woman. No one. Bec is the newly appointed Victims Commissioner for Queensland. She's got extensive experience in health, mental health, child protection, social and disability support, with a strong understanding of the challenges faced by crime victims. As the former CEO of DV Connect, she's improved support for victim survivors through leadership, innovation and integrity, and led the implementation of the 24/7 Victim Connect service. Bec was appointed co-chair of the Independent Ministerial Advisory Council, advocating for victim survivor voices in the criminal justice reform and support services, and is a founding member of the National Lived Experience Advisory Council. As Queensland's first Victims Commissioner, she fosters recovery and dignity for all affected by crime through collaborations with community groups and government agencies. Bec will speak to us about the importance of the services in Queensland from service delivery and advocacy perspective. So, my great pleasure to welcome my friend and colleague Bec.
I'm not crying, you're crying. Wow. And you're also very tall. I'd like to first thank Joseph for welcoming us to Yuggera and Turrbal country. I acknowledge him, his family, elders past, present and emerging, and all of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander colleagues here with us in person and online. I, of course, also acknowledge adults, young people, children who are victims of crime. I honour their stories and their advocacy and how vital it is that they are centred in our system's responses. I acknowledge the steadfast friends, families, agencies and communities who support victim survivors, and I acknowledge those who have not survived and the enduring impact this has on their loved ones. For the purposes of talking about my role and responsibilities, particularly under legislation, I'll refer to victims, survivors, mostly as victims or victims of crime throughout my conversation this morning. I mean no disrespect to any survivors that are here with us in the room. I know that you are not defined by what has happened to you or as a person who just receives support. You are many things, including advocates, leaders, silence breakers, and courageous truth tellers. Thanks for the warm welcome, Matt, and congratulations to you, the QCOSS board, and Aimee for another extraordinary year, particularly at a time where there are so many Queenslanders who are in need of your collective leadership and advocacy, or activism. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge your powerful campaigns to end the state's housing crisis, your determination to help millions keep the lights on and food on the table, and your uncompromising position on upholding human rights and, most importantly, the rights of our children. Over the past 2 decades, I've worked across frontline community services, most recently as the CEO of DV Connect and Victim Connect, supporting individuals, families and communities impacted by domestic, family and sexual violence, and of course of serious violent crime. Through this work, bless you, I've gained a deep respect for the vital role that QCOSS plays in bringing the social services sector together to provide connection and community. When the Women's Safety and Justice Task Force highlighted the need for a dedicated domestic family violence peak body, as a then representative of the specialist domestic family violence services sector, I was part of the group that actually approached Aimee to consider taking this on. QCOSS stepped up. You consulted widely with stakeholders and you brought together voices that otherwise might have gone unheard and unrepresented. Thanks to this work, Queensland now has a unified sector voice for DFE support and advocacy, and I'm deeply appreciative. I think that this is the exact kind of collaborative leadership that our communities need and is a strong example of how partnership across the community sector can drive real change. This collaborative approach is something that I too, as a newly formed statutory body, will greatly benefit from. To make relevant, realistic and achievable recommendations that genuinely reflect the needs of victims, I need insights from those of you who work directly with them. Where these recommendations create opportunities to design specialised training, to develop practice guidance, to enhance capability, much of that expertise rests within your membership. For reforms to be safe, to be effective and to be accountable, they must be grounded in evidence, data and action research. The wealth of information and practice wisdom held by peak agencies and their members is invaluable to roles like mine, providing a foundation for informed decisions and responsive change. Peak bodies and your networks can also create rapid feedback loops, giving my office access to timely input from both clients and your workforce. This feedback is essential, not only to monitor if recommendations are being implemented, but more importantly, to ensure that they're actually having the intended impact. In my view, there is much that's similar between peaks and statutory bodies. There's the aim to drive positive policy change and systemic improvements. There's striving to create more equitable, inclusive and culturally respectful practice, a focus on fairness and rights that aligns with our missions and our purpose, and a commitment to courageous advice giving in the interests of those we serve. The social services sector already plays a significant role in my own sector reference group that's been helping to guide the establishment of my office and provide valuable feedback on the strategic direction and priorities of my work. I'll continue to value this throughout the next 5 years. Knowing the influence and impact of the people and agencies represented here today, it's a true honour to be able to speak with you all. Many of us have worked side by side for years, and some of you may know parts of my story even before Matt's kind introduction. But today, as Queensland's first Victims Commissioner, I wanted to share why this role is so deeply important to me and what it represents. Not just for me, but for everyone who lives, whose lives have been impacted by violence and crime in our communities. It would come as no surprise that, along with a number of my peers, I was a very loud and very persistent voice to the Honourable Margaret McMurdo and the Women's Safety Justice Task Force Group for the creation of an independent Victims Commissioner. As both a leader in this space and having my own lived experience of violence, I have personally witnessed the barriers and secondary traumas some victims experience when seeking safety and justice. I've seen them scared, confused, and desperate for help to cope and to try and make sense of things. I've talked with many victim survivors about how they felt a loss of control and choice once they became part of the criminal justice system. I also understood the urgency for change to a legal system where rights of offenders are far clearer than those who have been harmed. I was frustrated by how access to justice and essential support can feel like a luck of the draw. Some victims receive compassionate, trauma-informed and culturally respectful support, while others struggle to even get past the front counter of a police station, let alone ever see the inside of a courtroom. This inequity is, of course, further compounded by institutionalised racism and gender inequity that we know persists. Fortunately, the task force did recommend the establishment of the role, and the government moved quickly to put things in place. So fast forward, about a year later, I found myself in a casual conversation with a friend, just talking about life and purpose, as one does. They asked me, "Bec, if you could have any job in the world, one that would make the biggest impact, what would it be?" Without a second thought, I answered Victim Commissioner. It surprised me, honestly, because I hadn't initially seen myself in this role. Strong, proud, heavily tattooed, feminist woman who marches, rallies, agitates for change for decades, and I've never worked a day in government. But from that moment, I just couldn't get it out of my head. I began to realise how much it resonated with my experience and my values. Everything I'd been through, everything I worked so hard for, and everything I wanted to see changed. I thought long and hard about what I could offer. I had a career full of leading big innovation and change that's actually improved systems. I've consistently elevated victims' voices, and if I be honest with you, I did it with next to no money, very little fanfare, a preparedness to take big risks, and a whole lot of trust and input from others. Luckily, I'm also known as somebody who gets shit done. I play extraordinarily well with others, deeply appreciating that no one person, one agency or one sector can fix this alone, and I'm not interested in competition. I just want what is right and what is fair. And now, standing before all of you, I'm both honoured and humbled to have stepped into this role, carrying the profound responsibility to champion the rights and voices of victims across Queensland. I take this role to heart, and I'm here with a clear purpose to make real, lasting impact over the next 5 years. This role and the Office of the Victims Commissioner has a powerful mandate to protect and promote the rights of victims of crime and to ensure that they are seen, that they are heard, and they are helped. There is already a roadmap that's shaped by the voices of victim survivors, and I'm here to oversee those insights turn into actionable change. Established under the Victims Commissioner and Sexual Violence Review Board Act 2024, my role has the authority to identify systemic issues affecting victims, handle complaints related to the Charter of Victims' Rights, and recommend changes to policies, practices, and procedures. But my role isn't just about identifying barriers. It's also about spotlighting the positive, game-changing innovations already happening in this space. I'm fully aware of the positive momentum already happening. Many of you in this room are actually leading this critical work, and I see my role as amplifying these efforts alongside the advice of victim survivors. My office also has a remit to conduct independent research and publish insights publicly on the justice system's impact on victims. I'm independent of the direction by any government minister, and I act solely in the public's interest. I'm here to provide frank and fearless advice to government, to advocate and to inspire a system where victims are met with meaningful and tangible support. I believe in transparency and in making sure that my recommendations are data-driven, ethical, and rooted in integrity. I am committed to showing up, even when it feels vulnerable. I'm constantly learning, and I'm open about my imperfections. But this authenticity is important because victims don't need somebody to be above them. They need somebody with them, somebody who will listen, who will act, and who will advocate. Now, what lies ahead is big. There are some strong commitments from the Queensland Government, and I'm here to centre victim survivors in these commitments, to deliver laws that match community expectations, to ensure victims of crime across Queensland are appropriately and proactively supported, and that victims of crime must always be provided with the utmost support and humanity. These are promises, and they are significant. But I see QCOSS and its members as also having a critical role in grounding this work in evidence, best practice, and compassion. At the core of my role is upholding the Queensland's Charter of Victim Rights. The Charter of Victims' Rights outlines the rights for anyone who's experienced violent crime, including sexual violence and domestic and family violence. The Charter outlines rights for you. If a member of your immediate family or someone that you are dependent on has been hurt or killed as a result of violent crime, including if you're injured when you're helping somebody who is being harmed. The Charter demands that victims be treated with respect, dignity, and that their privacy is always protected. That they have the right to be informed about support services, the status of police investigations, court proceedings, and sentencing outcomes. Importantly, they have the right to make a statement about how the crime has impacted them and affected their safety and well-being. I'm sharing this in some detail because awareness, transparency, and accountability are essential to building a justice system that victims can genuinely trust. For the Charter to serve its purpose, frontline workers need to understand it, they need to uphold it, and they need to ensure victims' rights are centred in every interaction. And for that to happen, I need broad awareness of the Charter and a firm commitment to these principles. But I've got lots of tools to help you do this. The Charter of Victims' Rights isn't new. It's been around for years, yet awareness and adherence to it has been inconsistent. Until now, victims have had few avenues for recourse if their rights were not respected. So since September 2 this year, this has changed. My role now includes the power to handle complaints from victims who feel their rights have not been upheld, whether by a government agency or a non-government agency funded to support victims of crime. For the first time, victims have a dedicated, empowered body that can help them if they feel that they've had their rights denied. I have legislative authority to gather information, ask questions, seek answers, and recommend changes. In the past 10 weeks, since this complaints function has actually come online, we've received 5 times more submissions than the Complaints Victims Assist Queensland received in the last 2 financial years combined. This tells me that victims are ready to come forward, but it also highlights how so many have previously felt unheard or not empowered to lodge a complaint. This feedback loop is invaluable, and it will be a way to ensure that victims' experiences directly shape our policies and practices. As I look to the next 5 years, I have ambitious goals for the Commission. Among my immediate priorities are establishing the Sexual Violence Review Board, reviewing the Charter of Rights, and forming a lived experience advisory group and a First Nations partnership group to guide and inform the work that I do. We're also creating numerous resources specifically for victims of crime, practical guides to help empower them as they navigate a very complex justice system. One of the most significant of these projects is the establishment of the Sexual Violence Review Board, a first of its kind in Australia, which will address the recommendation 46 from the Women's Safety and Justice Task Force Hear Her Voice report. The task force report was unflinching in its assessment. Queensland's criminal justice system is not working for victims of sexual assault and sexual violence. The statistics are stark. Too few cases of sexual violence progress through the justice system, and even fewer lead to convictions. I think the percentage is still in a single digit. Many survivors never report their experiences, and those who do often feel compelled to withdraw their complaints. This is a very clear call for systemic change. The Sexual Violence Review Board will focus on identifying the systemic barriers in reporting, investigating, and prosecuting sexual offences. The board will bring together independent perspectives, subject matter experts, and rigorous data analysis to uncover where and why survivors encounter obstacles in accessing justice. I'll have the privilege of chairing the board, which will include 8 appointed members, and expressions of interest for these positions will open very soon. And I expect the board to be operational by the first half of next year. So please, I invite all of you in the room to keep an eye out on that. If all of this work is successfully implemented, I would expect more victims are going to come forward and share their experiences, with an expectation that services will anticipate their needs. In my view, this isn't about a rise in crime, it's about a rise in confidence, an indicator that the system is here to help, not re-traumatise. This vision is actually entirely achievable, but it can't be done alone. I actually need each of you in here. When more victims feel safe to come forward, the role of supporting them through that process of ensuring their dignity and well-being lies with all of you. I ask you to continue to bring your expertise, to bring your empathy and bring your courage. QCOSS and its members have an important role in grounding this work in evidence, best practices, along with your 65-year commitment to social justice and positive disruption. Thank you for all of your leadership and for your partnership in making a real difference. Together, let's ensure that the Queensland's Charter of Victims' Rights isn't just merely words on a paper, but it's a living, breathing promise of dignity, respect and humanity for all victims of crime. I'm honoured to walk this path of transforming justice, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. That was wonderful, actually, to hear things I hadn't heard before either, just around the breadth of the role and understanding the importance of it. So I think we're thankful that the sector and the community now has your office in place. I was just thinking, you know, when you're talking about the sexual violence review board, just as an old sexual assault counsellor myself, you know, just how much that's been missing forever, you know, and how exciting it'll be to have in place. Look, thank you, Bec. I'm so glad that we've got such a strong, intelligent person in this role, and someone, you know, who's willing to really undertake the responsibilities and fulfil the role. It sort of made me reflect on, you know, around the country, you know, but for us here in Queensland, you know, when statutory officers are prepared to actually do their job and not protect their job, it makes a real difference. And I think we as a sector need to do a bit more to protect our statutory officers in that. Anyway, please. A good time, not a long time. Yeah. Please join me again in thanking our new Commissioner. One of the last formal areas of items for business today, you'll notice that we didn't undertake any voting today, which we normally do at our general meetings. So, going to move to the outcome of the nomination of the two director positions. Both are elected roles on the board. So our board plays a critical role in governing and driving the strategic direction of our organisation. Two board director positions were available at the election this year, with only two nominations received. One was from Linda McClelland, a current board director, and also the chair of our governance committee. And Rachel Patterson, who is a former director of QCOSS. So I'll just read out bios and then we'll move to the formal recognition of that. So Linda, currently the CEO of the Hinchinbrook Community Centre. Linda has over 35 years community sector experience. You must have started very young, Linda. And practice, which includes sitting on a variety of boards within the not-for-profit sector, including QCOSS, the Workforce Council, Queensland Families and Communities Association, and the Integrated Skills Development Network. Linda's fluent in the expectations of boards and principles that for effective corporate governance. As an existing director and board member of QCOSS, Linda's committed to the values of strength, optimism and respect. The unison of these values is a powerful tool for building and sustaining strong relationships and forging meaningful change. And also we acknowledged at our board meeting last night just how effective Linda has been in driving the work of the governance committee over her time there, and how much more professional we've become in that time. Rachel's the CEO of the community services organisation, the iconic Lifeline Darling Downs in southwest Queensland, and is responsible for oversight of over 30 programs and 13 retail stores across the region. Rachel's worked in the community services sector for over 30 years and in a diverse range of roles in a variety of urban, regional and remote locations. Rachel's worked extensively as a senior leader and previously as a director on the QCOSS board and the Kimberley Community Legal Services Board. This has developed her skills and expertise to ensure that she's leading with a strong foundation and enduring ability to support the delivery of high quality services to regional and remote communities, with a current focus on the Darling Downs in southwest Queensland. Rachel sees her appointment to the QCOSS board as confirmation of her commitment to the sector, one that improves the lives of people and communities. So, formally, the declaration from our constitution is that if the number of candidates for election as elected directors is equal to or less than the number of vacancies on the board, the chair of the annual general meeting must declare those candidates to be duly elected as elected directors according to their nomination. It's a mouthful. So it gives me great pleasure to declare that Linda McClelland and Rachel Patterson have been elected to the QCOSS board. Also, and echoing Aimee's sentiments earlier, Colleen, who can't be with us today because she's on a flight flying out to Japan right now with her husband, but in her absence, and we'll make sure that she watches it back, that do want to recognize Colleen, or Col Tribe. Col's been on the board since her appointment in 2018. She'll be incredibly missed by us, and we're grateful for many years of dedication to our organisation, but also to the sector. She's been the General Manager, CEO of a community organisation for a very long time, former high school principal of several schools, and a really proud teacher, and has spent the last couple of years actually back in the classroom. So Cole's just been a wonderful director for us. As Aimee said, she loves the organisation and loves our sector deeply, and has been a very effective director, I must say, but also just loves being a part of the organisation. So in her absence, please, can we thank Colleen? Now I'm going to introduce Ben, but I can't see Ben. Ah, he's there. Wonderful. Thank you, Ben. Ben Barker is an original musician known for his distinctive blend of didgeridoo and guitar, creating a truly unique sound. Drawing from his Aboriginal and Australian heritage, Ben's music transcends genres with melodic instrumentals, alternative rock and haunting didgeridoo solos that reflect his Biripi Dungari. I practiced that so many times. And
You're right.
My apologies, Ben.
No
Dungari spirit. Ben's music embodies the ongoing process of creation, capturing the essence of the dreaming in his art and storytelling. We're delighted to have Ben Barker with us to perform today. Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Biripi and Dungari descendant, and whether we were Indigenous or non-Indigenous, trying to pronounce names and learn the tribes and the cultures is uncomfortable, sometimes even for First Nations people. So we're all in the same boat, trying to connect back to this culture, and appreciate everybody that's brought their energy here today and vibrating with us, because we all vibrate in different frequencies, and that makes us a community. So thank you very much. I'm going to let the music speak for itself, and hope you guys enjoy. Thank you very much. Cheers. Maybe we got time for a little bit more, huh? I wasn't going to sing, but I think I'll sing a song. This one's called Make Me Smile, and it's about whatever happens in the world. It's not sort of whether the waves are up or whether the waves are down. It's about keeping that smile on your face and remaining that identity that you have, staying centred, because the waves will go up and the waves will go down, and you don't want that change in who you are. So this is called Make Me Smile. Hey there, world. watch me smile all the time, yeah. Walk that walk and talk that talk, made me smile, yeah. Hey there, baby, well, I got you and you got me, so why don't we just go real crazy? Hell, baby, well, I got you and you got me, so why don't we just go real? What you like, come get some. I don't mind, yeah. And what you do, and what you say, will come back here. Oh. Hey there, baby. Well, I got you and you got me, so why don't we just go real crazy? Hell, baby. Well, I got you and you got me, so why don't we just go real?
Thank you, cheers. Thank you very much. It's been a real honour to be able to bring that dreaming here and share it with such a beautiful organisation. And thank you, Matt, and thank you, Maddie, and everybody who ended up booking me. So thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Ben. That's like I said to you before, it's like just mesmerising. I just can't believe one person can do that. Yeah, never heard anything like it. It's extraordinary. It's hard to sort of come back to composure, right? This feels ridiculous, but I need to ask if there's any general business from the floor. It's a formal order of business, so if there isn't, I'm very pleased to invite Professor Bronwyn Fredericks, one of our board directors of QCOSS, to conclude the meeting with a vote of thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Hook it up here because I'm short. Okay, so hi everybody. What a way to end the meeting. And I want to give the vote of thanks. I do want to thank, with the order of business that we had, and it was fitting that we did have a welcome to country and that we're ending with me also doing an acknowledgement of that, of the welcome, but in also closing the business of the day here along the river, along Maywa, and elders past and present. I do want to take a roll call because we've been going for about an hour and a half, all right? And that's being the teacher I am. I kind of got to do that to wake you up a bit because I can feel the energy dropped a bit. We had a fantastic performance, but the energy did drop a bit in the room. So, are the service organisations in the house? Yes. No, that's not good enough. That's not even 1 star. I want 5. Are the member organisations in the house? Yes. Is QCOSS staff in the house? Yes. Yeah, that's a bit weak too. Are QCOSS board members in the house? Yes. Is all of QCOSS in the house? Yes! Fantastic. Now we know we've got business going. I want to thank Bec O'Connor for your guest presentation today. Bec, it's not about uplifting my heart and my spirit. It's a comforting sense that I have from hearing you this morning. I was, and few people in the room would know that I was one of the commissioners for the Productivity Commission for numerous years that worked on a number of inquiries. And one of the inquiries I did work on was the imprisonment and recidivism inquiry. And there were numerous gaps in that. And one of them was around victims or victim survivors. And so that tells me that part of that has now not been filled, because there's still a lot of work to do, but that some of the work to progress that agenda will be done. And I encourage everybody in the room to think about the words that Bec shared with us, not just about her role, but she said several times that she encouraged you, she wants to hear, she would like to hear from you in terms of the feedback, because it is the feedback which will help gift her role and make her role strong. And in that too, we are stronger for having the position, and we are stronger together for having you in that role. So I want to thank you, and thank you for presentation. And the ongoing walk that you have to the path to justice that we all need to be part of in this state and indeed in the country. I want to thank Ben Barker for his performance this morning and sharing his talent, and also reminding us about the waves go up and down. And as I'm looking out from my positionality here, I can see the river and I can see the water going up and down. And I'm reminded that today and yesterday, the bill in Aotearoa is being heard to reposition the treaty. I'm reminding that in this state, the truth-telling inquiry has been, we think, is put on pause. It still has to move through the House. But there is work going all the time which lifts our spirits up and down. But, you know, sometimes when I chew gum and I think I can walk, I can. So we can do things at the same time. Whether the waves are going up and down, we're still standing. And we can be sometimes really frustrated and get really down, but we still kind of have to going. We still have to go forward and believe there's a hope towards justice in whatever that may be, because there's so many people needing that at this time. I want to give thanks for, at this point, the board directors. And if you're a board director, put your hand up, because we haven't really seen you in a physical sense other than hear your name. So put your hands up if you're in the room. I take it that Alvin is online and he's sitting there by himself in a Zoom room with his hand up. No, keep him up, Kevin. Keep your hands up. Now, everybody look around the room and have a look who some of them are. I'm one as well. We got one here with the hands half up, but he's been on the stage. So just make sure you know who the directors are, and if you don't know who Alvin is, look him up, Google him. He's online today. And a shout out to Alvin as well. Thanks to all the QCOSS staff. Where's the staff? Put your hands up. There's a heap of them up the back. They're sitting around the back of the room. Make sure, put your hands up again, have a look around, check them out. They look good, eh? So make sure you're known to staff and contact them when you have issues or you want to talk about things. I want to thank all of the staff. It's not just about, yes, it is about Aimee and the leadership role, but every single staff member has a role at QCOSS. You know, in varying degrees, lots of different roles, but they all do important things and they help to make the organisation what it is and to drive that organisation and to work as a team. I want to thank the members. So all of those people that are here in the room and all of those people that are online and all that couldn't be here today, the members, the member organisations that couldn't be here today. Because you work hard every single day, every single week, every single month, year in, year out, to work towards supporting and helping people and lifting people up and to make people's lives better in the communities that you work in and you serve. And in that, there's a big thank you, as well as being part of the HEM and being part of the organisation that is QCOSS. I want to thank all the people that have been part of QCOSS for 65 years. 65 years! That's a big thing, right? Hoo-hoo! 65 years. It's pretty good. Some organisations don't even get through 20 years and there's a coup and they self-destruct. So 65 years is pretty good, and I'm sure if we went back through the history of QCOSS, there would have been some attempted coups in the years. I've got to say that it's pretty strong to be 65 years now, and I'm really proud to be a director and see and sit with the directors and see the staff and see the work that members are doing across the field. It makes me very proud. There's 65 of these little cakes, and some are gluten-free, so that means they're great for people like me. They are for you to take home. There's cakes for you to take home, so make sure you get one of those. Not all of them, just one of them. And there's also tea towels. So there's a take-home tea towel memento. Can we have one held up for a memento? No, hold it up so we can all see the pattern. Unwrap it. We want to see it. Nice and high. Yep. So I know people like tea towels. I know some people cut them up and make them into fancy clothes. Other people have them hanging in their kitchen and never use them. I know all this because I'm a CWA member as well, and we love our tea towels. So I know they're going to be really popular, and they will be sold at the next conference. So look out for them there. Now, we got one more thing to do together before I officially close the meeting. So the people, when I put my hand up like that, the people on that half of the room, not you two, this table here where Kevin is, you got to join this half. This half here, and Aimee, you're in that half with the staff and these tables here. You're going to, when I point to you, you're going to say, QCOSS 65 years on. Let's have a practice. QCOSS 65 years on. It's not too bad. One more time. QCOSS 65 years on. That's really good. All right, so just hold that. Remember the words. QCOSS 65 years on. This group, half of this side, so You, Kevin, and this table here, and across, plus the people online. You're not getting out of this exercise. We won't be able to hear you, but I want you to say it too, because I'll telepathically hear it. You're all going to say, when I point to you, still going strong. Ready? Still going strong. One more practice. Still going strong. All right, that's pretty good. Now you're going to say it. I'm going to point to the left, my left, not your left, my left, and then to the right, and we're going to do 3 rounds. Ready? Yep. You remember what you've got to say? Ready? Yep. QCOSS 65 years on, still going strong. QCOSS 65 years on, still going strong. QCOSS 65 years on, still going strong. Yay! We are now officially closed.